Welcome to Resolutions for Recovery. This show is dedicated to the education and empowerment for all people struggling and suffering with substance use disorder. Tonight's show is going to be a little bit different because we're a day late from our normal evening of taping, because yesterday was Thomas's 6th anniversary of his passing. And as surreal as that sounds to me, as I even say that, it's been quite the journey, especially this year, selling our home of 25 years and going through all my treasures that were made by small little fingers of my 3 children, and not having one of those children, that child in the world, to show, to share, to be with, and to experience the man that he would be now is, needless to say, heart-wrenching, cruel, brutal, whatever it is that you want to call it. So tonight, my good friend is here, Claudia Frizcell, who unfortunately is also part of a club that no parent should ever belong to, and who, ironically enough, just 9 months ago also went through her home. So it's really, we're going to talk about grief tonight, and we're going to talk about what a disease does to a family and what a disease does to the future of the family also, because this is grief from losing a child you don't get over, you don't get through, you don't put away. It's not normal, it's not anything. So anyone that has family members that have unfortunately maybe lived the most awful day of their life, don't expect them to just pick up and be the same person that they ever were. Thank you, Claudia, for joining me. I know we talked about this last week, but Sunday, moving, you know, and it's okay to let go of the house. It's the treasures, and it's not my stuff. It's the memories. The memories. It's the treasures of all the life that was lived. Yeah. And having to go through it and having to size it down and having to process it all over again. Yeah. And then, ironically enough, or I think God's timing was quite perfect, because if I had to go through it, I'm glad we went through it all at the same time, because it would have been equally as brutal whenever time it was. Right. And I just said to someone tonight, I have been pulled under the tidal wave for quite a while, and today just finally feel like I popped up and grabbed some breath. Yeah. It's crazy.
One of the hardest things you don't realize with grieving, that it is truly a lifelong process.
Oh, it's a lifelong process. Grief of I can't, I've lost my parents, as have you. Right. I don't grieve my parents because it's a normal occurrence in life. So I was so fortunate to have them. Right. But I always knew that one day I would be burying them. Right. It is a normal process.
Normal process.
Right. A child is not normal.
Not normal. And, I've heard many of us angel moms, as we call each other, talk about there being no word for a parent who loses a child. Right. When you lose a spouse, you're a widow.
Yes.
There is no, because you're right, it's just not normal, which is why I feel as if it's a lifelong process.
It is.
It will be part of your life forever, because
it has to be.
Child is part of you forever, whether they're present physically or not.
Yeah.
And
they're part of your soul.
Yes.
Part of your being. Especially, and I'm not minimizing dads, because dads grieve differently, but a mom, and I guess you carry that baby inside of you.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no greater bond than that.
Right. And I want to make sure that I acknowledge those moms who may not have carried that child.
Correct.
It's just a different bond.
Just a different bond.
It is truly a different bond
Yes.
that a mother has with their child, whether it's a male child or a female child.
Absolutely.
And yes, you have a certain connection because you had a biological presence and you
Yes.
felt that baby grow inside of you. But a mom, regardless.
A mom regardless. Absolutely.
The bond is just forever.
It's forever.
It's forever. And you're always thinking, my loss, my son's angelversary, if you will, he'll be gone this May, 18 years.
It's just surreal. That to me is because I look at you today, and people say, well, time heals. Time doesn't heal all wounds. And 6 years, it might as well be yesterday because it feels like yesterday. Yes. But it gets harder.
Yeah, in some respects, absolutely.
Because I'm just tired of not seeing him.
Right.
Now and then it pisses me off.
Right. And then
makes me angry.
So those stages that they tell you go through, they, or maybe they don't realize, or maybe they forget to tell you, that you continually go through those stages with each part of your life that you should have been sharing with that child. A lot of my son's friends now have families. Yeah. And I love them, and I'm so grateful that they share their lives with me, and
but
it's wonderful to say.
It's brutal.
But it is brutal.
It's a double-edged sword.
Because, yes, it is a double-edged sword, because I know he would have been a great dad, and I know I would love to be a grandma to his children. Yeah. And
You would just love to see him as a grown man in a different phase of his life.
Yes.
With a family.
Yes. I do that with my earthly bound children, if you will, now. And again, just like with my other children, it's just as difficult to enjoy their lives and their accomplishments, because part of me misses the accomplishments that he was, stolen from him.
Stolen.
They
That's
were
the word.
stolen from him.
And many people, and maybe they're watching right now, will say, well, they made a choice. They chose to be addicted to drugs or alcohol or whatever the substance is. No, they did not.
No.
They made one bad choice.
Right.
That ignited a disease in their brain.
Right. My dad, as a young parent, my dad used to say to me, when you're bringing up your child, and my son was probably 7 or 8 months old at the time, and he said, I don't ever want you to say, you're bad. You tell that child that what they did is bad. They're never a bad child. That stuck with me.
Yes.
And it resonates with me even more so with addiction, because it is because of that bad choice that all the
and it was
stigma
a choice.
Yes,
and the stigma
attached.
is ridiculous.
And it's not just the stigma of that person who has made that bad choice, but the family of that person.
Yes.
People have a bad tendency to make judgments for things they fear and things that they don't understand.
And that's the whole disease of addiction. Right. I wrote an op-ed a few years ago for Newsday, and I mentally prepared, and it was only 2 years after Thomas passed. I mentally prepared on the online version to read the comments.
Right.
Good, I'm glad he's dead. He deserved to die. It was his choice. And I said the ignorance in Suffolk County, because that's where that paper, but the ignorance throughout the United States on substance use disorder is disgraceful.
It is.
It's disgraceful because I will say to everyone struggling with diabetes who still remain overweight, I will say the same thing to you then.
Right.
Why are you still fat?
Right.
You got a disease. lose the weight. It's the same.
And
It's
not
the
that
same.
simple.
No, it isn't that simple. Nothing
Nothing.
is that simple.
Right.
If it was simple, we'd all be perfect.
Right.
But
And-
we're just humans that fail
Right.
at a lot of different things.
Right.
And that's okay.
It
To
is
acknowledge
okay.
that. It's okay.
It is okay.
It's okay.
And that's what we need to bring to our fellow human beings. Is the compassion. We really need to bring some compassion
It's
back.
ironic too that I did speak yesterday, and to this group, I said, someone brought up society, and I said, before you go any further, we can all say we have a problem with society. I go, there's a little secret that I'm just going to let you in on. We are society.
We're part of that society.
We are society.
Yeah.
So before you point fingers at everyone else, what can you do to change your mindset?
Right.
What can you do to affect change on your block, in your community?
Right.
Start with yourself.
One of the first things that I did after my son passed in 2000 was change jobs. And it was made known to me that a job at the front desk at my public library in my community was available. And I decided to interview. I love the library. I love being part of the community. I've had already been part of Civic Association and my church. And when I interviewed, the director who interviewed me said, Claudia, I know, your personal background, and I know how the community has let you down. Are you sure you want to be at the front desk where you're going to see that community every day? And I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because the community has to see me.
They have to see me.
Yeah.
And, we kid about how I hug everybody, and I'm
Yes.
very, very friendly, and I'm the giver of hugs. And that's because you're right. The change begins with me.
Yes.
So if I expect people to be open to compassion, then I have to be as well.
Then
So
you have to be compassionate.
I have to be
even in the
compassionate.
light of them being
especially
not
in the light
compassionate
of
to
them
you.
being
Correct.
not compassionate.
Because then they don't know
That's
how to
exactly
handle
right.
that.
Yeah.
It's such
It's
crazy.
been a beautiful thing. I've been at the library more than 15 years now, and I can't tell you how many conversations I've had. Hundreds.
Because you can start the conversation.
I can start, and they know me, and they already know my story, so
Yeah.
they feel comfortable to ask me questions or say, gee, when you get off work, could we have a cup of coffee? Can we talk about it? I have a friend, I have a nephew, I have a
Yeah.
son, I have
Because
a sister.
people are still afraid
Right.
to talk about that in the open. And that's sad. Because at the most, substance use disorder causes a ripple effect through the whole family. And the whole family is on an uncontrollable ride,
Right.
and you never know what's going to happen the next step that you take. So you're dealing with so much at the one time that you need the most support
Right.
from your family, friends, and community is the one time that you're afraid.
And you
And
isolate.
you isolate. And that is what the disease does to you anyway. The disease wants to isolate
Right.
and keep, because then nobody gets help.
Right.
And nobody gets better.
And it
And a
continues to
fatal,
feed.
progressive disease becomes just that.
Right. And it does for the whole family.
And it does for the whole family.
And on top of that, their friends,
Yes.
their extended family,
Yes.
even teachers, everybody they come in contact with. It's a ripple effect.
Yes.
It's a family disease, but more importantly, it's a community disease.
It's a human disease.
It's a human disease. It
It's a
affects
human-
all of us.
Yes, it
Whether
does.
it affects you in your immediate family or not, it affects you.
It affects everyone in their immediate family. I don't,
Yeah.
that's less than 1%.
Right.
That they don't know someone. But substance use disorder also includes, gambling,
Right.
overeating, undereating,
Tobacco,
tobacco,
alcohol.
shopping. You name it, whatever
Right.
compulsion that you have
Right.
is part of that very same brain disease.
Right.
But because I shop so much, that's not a problem.
Right.
They made a show about hoarders, so
Right. Yeah. Right.
I mean, so it's got to be
Yes.
something.
Right. Right.
You know, but we shouldn't be glorifying it or sensationalizing it as they
Yeah.
do on TV.
Right.
It's a very serious disease, and you know, being there and listening to someone who's going through such a hard time is, what does that cost another
Right.
human person to
Yeah.
do that?
Their fear is
Yeah.
is the first thing, and you know, once you get through that fear, to embrace your fellow human being, your neighbor, your relative, that
always-
will bring us all closer together.
But all of us have said, you know, if God forbid my son had cancer,
Right.
and I don't know why I say God forbid anymore because he's
Right.
already gone.
Right.
It's kind of weird.
Mute point.
But
Right.
they would have done spaghetti dinners.
Yes. Yeah.
There would have been a meal train. There would have been, can I take the other two to school,
You would
to
have had
soccer, to
endless
wrestling?
neighbors at your
Endless,
door.
yes.
Yeah,
He was sick with a disease.
he was.
He wasn't a bad boy. He was a sick boy,
Right.
you know?
Good child.
A good child
A good person.
with a bad
with
choice
a bad choice and a horrible disease.
and a horrible disease.
And until we learn to embrace that
Yeah.
and understand it, we're not going to move forward. So part of moving forward is
It's acceptance.
Is acceptance. That's the first step. We need to
And
accept.
On Long Island, we just did a few shows with Seafield on Blue Point and the ignorance in that community when they have. Town of Brookhaven has the highest overdose deaths
Right.
in Suffolk County of all the townships.
Right.
And
Suffolk County is the biggest county,
Yeah.
the highest county in New York State,
correct, with the most overdose.
most overdose.
And they would rather have a bar or a liquor store down the block from the elementary school than an enclosed
Rehabilitation.
center
Right.
for sick women.
Right, which is so needed. We do
So
not have
needed.
enough facilities for females.
Never mind that. Even
Yeah.
if we take that out of it, the nuns who have served that community for 100 years, I forget how many years it was,
And it's almost 100 years, yeah.
they screwed them
Right,
out of a deal to sell the property so that these nuns could retire. The ignorance of a community.
right. And
Say
the
no to
fear.
see if, and the fear. Our children will be kidnapped.
It's
And
ridiculous.
our children, when did people struggling with substance use become pedophiles and kidnappers?
Yeah. What really upsets me is that they feel, you know, they want the attention on schools. But my point is, if they don't address the substance use disorder and the stigma that goes along with it, those same children are not going to live to enjoy the benefits of that community or that
Correct.
education.
Correct.
Period.
Period.
So that's got to be a foundation. That should be the most important.
It should be the most
talk
important.
about your most essential needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which food, water,
Shelter.
clothing, shelter, right? Compassion.
Compassion.
It's got to be there. And we're forgetting that because without compassion and humanity, we
are a lost society.
We're a lost society. We need each other. We need to be able to come together. I mean, you see it in not just with substance use disorder. We just had the shootings at the
Yes.
the school
Yes,
shootings.
but
you know.
so if we talk about the school shootings and the inability of our children to cope,
Right.
they cannot cope with daily life. They are being, over medicated, in my
Right.
humble opinion,
Yes.
at a very young age. 6-year-olds don't always necessarily have ADD.
Right.
They're 6 years old.
They're 6
and
years
they
old.
need to run around and they need to play.
Right.
And the first things that we start to cut in education are gym, music, art, recess,
All those
because
things
we need
that give
more.
them an outlet.
Exactly right.
And how is that helping?
But we see in all of these young people some level of trauma,
Right.
of mental illness, of medications being used. So, when we see that pattern, then really, is that what you want happening in your school district?
Last night I watched on public television a documentary on a school. It's a trial that they're doing. I think it's in Washington, D.C. They anyone who has been affected, children who have been deeply affected, and families by trauma
Okay.
of all kinds, because the basis of their theory, and it's already been proven true, is if you do not address the traumas, they cannot learn, they cannot progress, and they have a multitude, and the whole family does.
Yes.
So it's done on a it's multifaceted and multi-level. So the whole family is being treated for trauma, not just the not just the child that's in school. So the parents, the siblings, grandparents, if they're there, if they're within
a
part of the community,
Wow.
or part of their amazing. And it gave me great joy and hope that this is being acknowledged and worked on, and I hope that it spreads. But what if we didn't have,
Yes.
what if we dealt with these children while they're still little, prior to trauma?
Yes.
What if we gave them the tools for coping as they are?
And acknowledge whatever, trauma to an adult, trauma that's in a child's life may not be traumatic to an adult.
Right.
But it is traumatic to the child. But what I was going to say, after the death of my son and my younger son having found him, speaking to different therapists that I've met through this journey,
Right.
and them saying to me, he doesn't need therapy. He needs, rapid resolution therapy. He needs EMDR to get rid of the trauma. And Steve Pinto, who is I love him.
He's a great guy.
He said before the onion gets more and more layers added on, at 20 years old, or
Right.
Andrew was, that the trauma is easily gotten to.
Right.
We know what it is. Nothing else is in its way.
Right.
But if you let that fester, his whole life will revolve around that trauma.
And then you
have
lots
problems.
Of, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of layers.
Then you have lots of layers. He's always going to grieve his brother.
Right.
I went to a wedding and I watched this young man that played lacrosse with Thomas, and it killed me. I was so happy for him,
Right.
but I was dying at the same moment in time because I won't see him get
Right.
married.
Yeah.
So again, there's that double-edged sword that
Yeah.
you want to be so happy.
Yeah.
And
And you
then
are.
And you are. I
You
am
are.
truly happy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
However,
However,
you won't have that with your son.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
I always
And
and I always think of Andrew getting married
Yeah.
and not having his brother as his best man, and not having that camaraderie as they go through life together.
Right.
There's a big hole there. Big hole that's just
So, and where was Thomas in the
right in smack in the middle.
right smack in the middle? My son was the oldest,
Yeah.
and my younger children were angry
Yeah.
because they don't have the older brother that they looked up to and that they should have had. And that's, they go through that as much as we do.
My grandson, who's,
yeah.
My daughter had a baby at 19, and he was only 4 at the time.
Right.
But we always talk about him, and he, you know, going through things. I gave him some of Tom's possessions, and he's mad that his uncle's not around.
Right.
You know, and the other 2 little ones won't get to meet him. I know. On this plane.
Right.
Because I do believe, you know, when babies play with dust, they're not playing with dust. There's someone there.
There is, yeah.
Yeah. Because one of my grandson, CJ, came into my house, and and he walked right up to Thomas's bed. He was like, "Hi, Tom." And my daughter was shocked because she didn't really have pictures of him out, but he knew
instinctively.
He knew who that was. Yep.
That's awesome.
It's crazy.
That is
and I
really
go,
cool.
he gets around. He gets around.
That's
Last week,
thing.
you know, and people can believe me or not believe me, being in my house, you know, and I was the only one home, and I was just going to get into bed, and I smelled cigarette smoke. And I went through the whole house down to the basement, and I thought, you know, I better look. And I came back upstairs, and it was only in the bedroom that was my son's. And I went in there, and I could feel him, and I said, really? You could have given me a little more. You didn't have to make me go all the way downstairs, you know, and that's how we talk now. But, you know, that's in the good moment. Because a lot of times you scream and cry, and you're angry.
Yeah.
But on a, you know, on a cellular level, that has to come out of you. Yeah. It has to. Because that will kill you if you don't sit in the grief.
Yeah, and we spoke about that too. Because as we were saying that, you know, it's a lifelong process.
Yep.
There are times, you know, and even though, like, I felt like I had dealt with a certain issue or a level or a phase, and then it comes up again, you know, for whatever reason. You know, maybe it's one of his friends that have gotten married or has had a child or whatever. So you deal with that all over again.
All over again.
And there are times where I need to sit back and feel it.
Be quiet and sit in it.
And not avoid it.
You can't, you know, that's the worst part. You can't avoid it. We'll be right back after this message.
My age is 18 years old, and my name is Evan.
My name is Sean, and I'm 19 years old.
My name is Justin, I'm 16.
My name is Angelica, I'm 18 years old.
Marijuana, and I was 13 years old.
Marijuana, and my age was 13.
The first drug I ever tried was marijuana, and I was 12 years old.
It was marijuana, and I was 11 years old.
Yes, and that escalated to promethazine, lean.
I began to take pills like Xanax, Percocets.
I began using other substances such as pills and alcohol.
I then went on to cocaine and pills and quickly progressed to heroin. I was 13 years old when I first started using heroin. I had like aspirations of going to like an Ivy League school, and that quickly, within like a year or two, changed. I stopped going to my classes, I stopped going to school altogether eventually. All my friends were kind of just dropping me.
I started getting in trouble in school, eventually kicked out. I got in trouble with the law a lot.
I wasn't really hanging out with a lot of sober people, just people that use. I overdosed at 15. I've been at Outreach for 5 months. Outreach honestly really helps you. It shows that you're honestly worth something. And it's possible to become sober if you put in progress. But it's not just gonna be handed to you, you really have to want to change. Inpatient, you can't just leave. You stay here and you have to deal with it. That's what I feel like a lot of kids need.
In a long-term facility, the counselors get to know the resident better, and they get to actually work with them more than in a short-term 28-day facility. And it really gives kids a chance to work on themselves rather than being rushed through a program just to be thrown back into life, going back into the same old bad habits that they were doing before.
Coming in here, I couldn't believe how long I would have to be here, but after a couple months, like, you know, talking to counselors, I kind of came to the realization that, like, I need a lot of time and work to repair everything I've done.
The things that we get taught here, you know, it really does help you in life, and it gives you a different perspective. It's very important for a kid to have a family involvement in treatment so they don't think they're alone in this. We communicate on a better basis than how we used to. We understand each other more, and that was from the help of outreach.
They come every Wednesday night for support group. They come to a group every other week.
They come to peer support group to discuss their problems also. My relationship honestly has got a lot better, because I remember my mom used to never want to say anything to me because she would be scared of my reaction. I'm starting to realize in here, like, I really have to take advantage of the fact that I have her still.
When I was about 14 is when my parents realized that I had several different problems, such as behavioral issues, and the behavioral issues kind of stemmed from my drug use. I began caring less about myself and others. Outreach has really made me realize how important family is. If I was out of state in a program where my parents were not involved, I would have never been able to strengthen my relationship with them. My father told me that I've inspired him to make changes in his life, and that meant a lot to me. I've never heard my dad be inspired by something before, and I was just proud that it was me.
Welcome back to Resolutions for Recovery, and you know, we're kind of talking a very deep subject today, grief, you know, loss of a child or a loss of anyone. Yeah. But especially poignant is, you know, again, as we said, you're supposed to lose your parents. If you're married, at some point you're going to lose your spouse. Right. You know, not that you're ever ready for any of these events, right, but they are not abnormal in life. Right. But a child, you're not supposed to. They're supposed to bury the parent, right? Yeah. They're supposed to bury the parent. So, but the destruction that substance use brings to a family, right? So the active phase, complete chaos inside a family, right, with siblings angry and having voices that really go unheard, mom and dad stressed out about not knowing what to do and where to turn, all of those things. And that's why so proud that the foundation is going to be doing the family work with especially with people who have overdosed, scooping up the family and helping them in the moment in time that they are, right, and building them a toolbox, right, that they know how to deal with their disease. And part of dealing with any disease, and you know what, we can even just say dealing with life, right, on life's terms, especially right, in the world that we live in, is self-care and mindfulness. Right. And it always comes back to those two things. What have you done? You know, to take care of yourself is not selfish. It's not egotistical. It's necessary.
But as a parent, you think that you are being,
of course, selfish.
You know, selfish.
Especially, right, I think,
but
moms.
It's so important.
So important.
And especially while you're going through this crisis, because you cannot function physically, emotionally, or mentally. Yeah. Always in crisis mode. You can't maintain that level. You can't maintain that level. Eventually you're going to have a breakdown. Correct. And then you're no good to anybody. You know, and that's the one thing that especially whoever, you know, moms are the glue of the family. Right. They really are. So when I've always used exercise as my thing. And when my babies were little,
I would set up little bowls of cereal and they would come down and I would work out early in the morning.
Right.
And I would say to them, "What time is it?" "Mommy's time." But they
Right.
got used to that.
Right.
Because it was my time. I was entitled to an hour during the
Absolutely.
day to take care of myself. So, it's not being selfish. It's the same as scheduling an hour to bring, your kids to dance.
Right.
To bring them to a sport, to bring them, it's a
need some
necessary
time.
hour.
Yes, yeah. Just
Yeah.
to regroup and be a human being.
Correct.
Who is an entity of itself.
Yes.
Because you lose
Your
yourself
identity.
as a parent.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you do that anyway with the craziness of family
Yes.
life. But when you're going through a crisis like this, you do it on a level that
Yeah.
is inexplicable. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really hard to explain unless you've been there.
It really is hard to explain unless you've been there.
24/7, you're focusing on that person who is,
Out
in
of
the
control.
grips and out of control. But on the fringes of all that, you're worried about the other kids, your spouse, your
Paying
your
the
home,
bills.
paying the bills, your job,
Yeah.
other family members, the community, your church, if you belong to that you're juggling so much, and literally at such a high rate.
But and we can equate it to the same thing as, caring for an elderly parent now. Everyone needs that respite time.
Yes, yeah.
And insurance companies actually pay
Right, caring for the caregiver.
caring for the caregiver.
Right.
It's the same. It's on the same level as that. And until we really start paying, attention to disconnecting from the world for a little
Right.
while, because when you reconnect, you'll be in a much better position all the way around.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so important to be the example to the rest of your family and your other children.
Right.
To
You don't realize that.
Yeah.
That by doing that, you are setting a good example. Because
Absolutely.
you want your children to be able to do that.
Yes.
And you may even tell them they need to. But if you're not setting the example yourself, it's really hard to say, do what I say, but not what I do.
When we were young, you could have had a bad day in school, but when you got home, unless someone called on the telephone, you weren't attached
Right.
to any social media,
Right.
to any bombardment of name calling,
Right.
of things that happen now.
Right.
So we're hearing about all these young people committing suicide because of, bullies, cyber bullies. So
And the
what
social
a great,
pressures.
what a great, because when we talk about this, there are, that cyberbullying can lead to wanting to escape from reality.
Right.
And how do we escape from reality? We add a drug or a drink,
Right.
and we're escaped from reality. And maybe then we fit in to what the other kids want us to fit into. So it leads us to that path of
Right.
self-destruction.
Right.
And that one bad choice again. Because that one bad choice could ignite the substance use disorder.
Right.
So again, we're coming back to creating your home should be the safe haven,
Right.
free of,
Pressures.
yeah. So what a great example. And I've worked with enough kids now that when 12-year-olds say to me, I would love to talk to my parents, but they're always on their phones. Wow.
Yeah.
That blew me away. Because as a parent, and I witnessed it, I think I've told this before, but on the day before Easter, moms and little girls in the beauty parlor getting their nails done. And mom is so busy, and the little girl, I can still picture her. She was standing in the pedicure bath, like trying to get her mom's attention. She's like, be quiet, shut up, Meanwhile, then she's going to take a picture and say, oh, look at us getting pedicures. But you miss the whole point of it.
Right. Yeah.
Who cares what everyone else thinks? You miss the moment
Right.
of being together with her and her excitement.
Right.
You know, and
Aw.
that's the point. You know, if you go to a concert now, I find it absolutely amazing. And I may take a couple of pictures of the stage and
Right.
the artist that's on the stage, but everyone just holds their phone up and they watch
Through the phone.
through the phone what's going on the stage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? What is up with
I
that?
didn't spend $150 on a ticket to watch it on my phone.
I could have stayed home for that for free.
Be in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, being in the moment.
Being in the moment.
Being in the
Because the one thing that both of us could say to everyone that's watching us right now is tomorrow's never promised
Right.
to anybody. And I am so grateful for all the moments that I had, and I wish I had a million more.
Right.
But don't let insignificant BS get in the way of real-time moments,
Right. Yeah.
the personal moments with your family and your friends. Because
Yeah, I'd give $1 million for another hug.
you know what? I tortured myself. There's a song by Luther Vandross, Dance with My Father Again, and I was singing that just for my son.
Right.
And I'd play a song that would never, ever end.
Man.
I would play a song that would never, ever end. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, you know, what would you give for 5 minutes? You'd give everything, everything,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
everything.
So, you know, bringing it around, you know, we know this is a family disease, and whether you are in the midst of, you know, your loved ones still struggling, or unfortunately, if you've had, you know, the horrors that we have had and had to bury a child or a loved one. It's really, really important that the family address this, and that's part of, you know, some of the volunteer that I do with families in supported treatment, and you know, trying to get family support groups and more socialization for families who have isolated. We have a meet and greet coming up.
Let's talk about that.
And I want to hear more about the foundation that is going to be scooping up the families. That's why I brought it up.
You know, after Thomas passed, it was really odd to go to parties.
Yeah.
I felt, you know, anxious.
Yeah.
Like I
Shouldn't be doing that.
I shouldn't, not that I shouldn't be doing that, because that's not the feeling that I had. It was just, I didn't want to engage with other people that didn't really understand, because,
Right.
you know, here's the thing, you lose a child and people look at you pitifully.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I would love to punch you in the face when you look at me that way.
Yeah.
Because no one wants, I don't want pity.
Right.
I want compassion.
Right. Yeah. And there's a huge difference.
There's a huge difference.
Right.
There's a huge difference in saying, you know, it's been a few months, you really need to get back out and do things, which is an asinine statement to say. Or just say, I have no words for you, but anytime you want to have a cup of coffee,
Right.
you want to have lunch, you want to go for a walk on the beach, I'm here for you.
Right. Or just stand next to me.
Just stand next to me. We don't have
Right.
to talk. Your company would be great.
Right.
You know, don't make an awkward situation that much more awkward. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
So we
Yeah.
do have family in supportive treatment, of which I'm a proud board member.
Yes.
The family support group on Thursday evenings.
Right.
So we stole you from there tonight. There's Al-Anon, Nar-Anon. There
Absolutely.
are family anonymous groups. And what I really encourage families to do is to find the group that has your people.
Right.
You got to find the group.
I tell
Not
people
all
that
groups.
all the time. You need to go to a couple of different
You need
groups.
to go to a lot of different
find,
groups.
to find your niche.
You got to
because
find your niche.
You know, what worked for me may not work for you. And
You're going to find
and-
somebody that you connect with
Right.
on some kind of a level.
and you're going to feel comfortable.
Yes.
And you're more apt to continue to go
when you're comfortable.
when you're comfortable.
Yeah.
So wherever that is.
Wherever that is.
You know,
and there are a lot of 12-step fellowship
There
groups
are a
that,
lot of
that really
fellowships.
follow that. And
Yeah.
if you're not into that, certainly, you know, can hit the Facebook page. We'll find your groups.
Right.
I'll talk to you. You'll talk to them.
Absolutely.
You know, we have a
Yeah.
lot of people that are willing to sit in the mud with you.
Right. Yeah.
Because we've already been there. I'm already dirty.
I'm already dirty. Yeah.
Already dirty.
Already got
so
my
the
feet
the
wet.
foundation now, so fortunate to have, we got a legislative initiative last year, and I've collaborated with Dr. Jeff Reynolds, our good buddy at Family Children's Association. They got the Family Navigator piece, and we'll be starting in Catholic, well, actually, we started, still waiting to get a few, we have to, there's a lot of background checks, so
Right,
there's a
yeah.
lot of clearing. And I made it all this time without a measles shot, and I had to get a measles shot. So I'm like, really? Ironically enough,
Right.
there's a case of measles in New Jersey.
Oh, boy.
But the way it will work is we're doing the trial at Good Sam Hospital in West Islip, soon to start at St. Catherine's. When an overdose happens,
Right.
and EMS is bringing them into the ED department, 2 phone calls will be made. One to Family Children's, the person on call, and one to Thomas's Hope, to the person on call, and or will just be in the emergency room.
Wow.
And we will engage the family right at that point, where they're at. Whether the identified person gets help or not, we're going to work on the family, because we know
Wow.
what happens when we change the family.
Right.
The identified person gets pushed
Right.
in that proverbial corner and may give up a little bit quicker without being able to manipulate and lie and
Within the
having
family.
a healthy family surrounding them.
Sometimes just seeing the change in the family
Will cause a
will
change.
cause a change. So the 2 phone calls, so Family and Children's Services will send out someone to talk
the hospital,
to the hospital,
to the person
to the person that's overdosed.
Yes.
And then
And or I shouldn't even say all overdose. You know, everyone always brings it back to this heroin opiate epidemic.
right.
People come in every day with alcohol poisoning,
Right.
with
Right.
you know, benzos.
Right.
Substance use disorder is substance use disorder.
That's
It
exactly
really
right.
doesn't matter what the substance is.
Is right. So
Heroin
it's not
and
specific. It
not
doesn't matter
specific.
whether
it
or
doesn't
not.
matter. It
That's
doesn't
wonderful.
matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Then we're going to do the family work,
That's
and we're going to
fabulous.
engage the children. You know, so we're bringing Hugs and Kim Lauby into the mix.
That's
You know, we
great.
really want to create
Safe space.
safe space.
Right.
Safe space.
Oh,
Because
that's
we
so
need
important.
to create that safe space, and we need to give a voice, you know, to the kids, to the other
Absolutely.
siblings.
Yeah.
And I'm so fortunate to have John Venza on our board.
I love
So
He's a great
what
guy.
better
Yeah.
guy to really,
Wow.
you know,
That's powerful. That's
it's going to be
really
powerful. It's going to be bigger than I ever imagined it to be.
That's wonderful.
And I told Jeff Reynolds that.
You know, just the support in and of
Yes.
itself, for no other reason, just for the family to have the support of someone else who will understand what they've been through
And navigate the system.
and navigate the
with them.
system. That was
With them and
that
for
wa-
them. We
one
didn't
of the
have all
biggest
of this.
reasons that I stayed. 18 years, a really long time to have lost my son, but
There wasn't everything.
there was nothing.
Nothing
There was
around.
nothing, and that was one of the motivators for me. Is I did not want another family to go through the hassle and the research and. Oh my goodness! It was like pulling teeth. I felt like an alien on a different planet because I couldn't find anything for me. When I finally found a group, a support group for me, not to mention treatment for my son, but for me, I sat and cried, just knowing that I was sitting with people who understood what I'd been dealing with.
Yeah.
It was just such a wonderful relief.
It is a wonderful relief.
Oh my goodness.
And it shouldn't be, and it's still that difficult
it
because,
is.
you know, in the world of
I'm so
technology,
happy.
no one wants to Google because we get really bad treatment facilities who pay a lot of money to be the first one
on the list, and they may not
top
be the
of
best.
the search.
Right.
But nobody wants to press 1, press 3, press 5.
You
They
get
want
frustrated.
somebody, they want somebody that can help navigate
Right.
where we need to go, what
More
we need to
important
do.
than that, I think, Linda, in my opinion, is having the human being next
The
to
touch,
you. You know, I know that there are a lot of Facebook groups and online in the rooms, and those are great to a certain extent. But you really need to have, I mean, just sitting here with you tonight. I mean, that's,
I know.
It feels
Me
great.
too.
It's such a support, and I just know that families are really going to benefit from
They are, you know,
having
because
this.
unfortunately with this epidemic, a lot of times that overdose may be the first time that the family finds out that the extent of the problem.
Yeah.
So there's that moment that this can't be happening. This, not heroin.
Denial.
Yeah, not this can't be happening. And that's the moment that you want to say, it is, and you can breathe. Because there is recovery and there is hope. But more importantly, we're going to get you healthy. We're going to get you, and as you and your family get healthier and stop the hamster wheel in the house,
the terrible cycle.
You know, you're going to, life will never be the same. It's going to be better for you, you know, and then let's let.
You don't realize how unmanageable your life had become
until it changes.
Until it changes. And then it's like, wow, how did I do that? And why? You know, I just think
you know,
that
and
it's,
I also will open it up. There are a lot of, unfortunately, parents that don't even know where their children or families that don't know where a loved one is because of the choices and perhaps mental illness and substance abuse that's working in tandem. They need to be supported. They need to be, you know, helped through this whole thing. You know, I have really, my heart goes to the kids so much, especially the orphans who maybe are being raised by foster parents, grandparents, you know, aunts and uncles. We haven't even scratched the surface of the epidemic, of the, certainly the fiscal cost, never mind the human cost that's gone along with this. You know, it is not natural for 65-year-old grandparents to be raising babies and explaining to them that their parents died from substance use disorder, and or the babies that are being born dependent, and the host of physical, mental, and emotional trauma that's going to be on that baby, because that's going to leave a mark,
And we have a lot.
We have a lot of that. And who, by the way, pays? Let's think. Who's paying for all those babies? We are. The taxpayer is. So wouldn't it be smart to do prevention before all of that happens? Because for every dollar spent, we save $78 on treatment. Wow. It is unbelievable. But that's going back to
but by
disconnecting to reconnecting with your 5-year-olds and teaching them how to cope.
Otherwise, you continue
and communicate.
This cycle.
And, you know,
Another generation.
Yeah, another generation
Right.
that
So
only know
important.
how to do this
Right. And can't look up.
and can't look up and look you in the eye.
When we go on family vacations, the first thing that's done is we have a bowl. All the phones go in the bowl. Now we have times, I'm not going to lie, that you can grab your phone and we take pictures and enjoy.
Of course.
But it's a family vacation. So
you know, there's an hour a day.
Yeah.
You work. You need to check your emails.
Right.
You need to be in contact with
Yeah.
other family members. That's understandable.
Right.
But to be on your phone 24/7 to check social media,
Yeah.
because by the way, that's an addiction.
Yeah. Yes.
Whether you want to admit it
Yeah.
or not, give up social media for 90 days
Right.
and see how well you do with that. Right?
Good
Nobody wants to give that up.
Right. Yeah.
Because once you start checking and you hear that little ping,
Right.
that, oh, I have a notification, I got to go and look.
Who
Do you
is that?
really
What is
honestly
that?
know
Yeah.
how much time you waste in your workday and your productivity, just in life, by being attached to your cell phone?
Yeah. It's incredible.
I can't stand it when you're food shopping. This is just me. I'm always saying, I'm sorry, did you ask me something? And people are rude to me because they're on their phones.
Right. Yeah.
What are you on your phone in the store for? I don't know. Stay outside.
Right.
And
Finish
talk on
it.
the phone.
Yeah. Get it
Finish
over
it.
with. Yeah.
I don't bother with I'm always on the phone for my job.
Right.
So it's the last thing that I want. Last thing that I need
Right. Right.
is to be on my phone. Do I bring it with me? I leave it in the car. In case I get stuck, I have my phone.
Right.
It's nobody I need to speak to. That's how I look.
24/7. Yeah.
It's just
right.
horrific.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what else can we bring to our, because we have a few minutes left. So
Okay.
I want to talk about your,
My festival.
What's the date?
That would be great. May 12th. It's the day before
Mother's Day?
Mother's Day.
Okay.
Yes. So
it is.
my idea of the festival, I did the first one October of 2016, was to enjoy and be around the community of healing. You
Yeah.
know, all these people who have dealt with mental health issues, addiction issues, their families, their friends.
what if
needing
you've gone
to,
through a physical illness?
physical illness? Everybody.
Everybody
it's
should just
open up
come.
to everybody.
It's a family
Absolutely.
day.
It's
It's
a family
outside.
day. It's at the Little Portion Friary. Father Frank and Hope House
Hope House
Ministries.
Ministries.
Owns the property. The property is absolutely beautiful.
Yes, it
48
is.
Old Post Road in Mount Sinai. And so there'll be Tai Chi and drum circle, and there may be acupuncture. I'm still waiting to verify. There'll be storytelling. We're going to do people who do poetry, and we'll have a Zen art circle where you can go and do arts and crafts. There'll be music for people who want to enjoy music. There's a labyrinth on the property. You can come and do the labyrinth, actually. You can see it on the picture there. It's a meditative walk. There'll be people who will guide you through a meditative labyrinth walk. We'll end with a interfaith prayer service for healing and bringing of community. So
It's a day just to go and
it's
be
a day.
outside
It is
in the
totally
spring.
free.
And it's free.
Right, and it's totally free. You can be
Children can
outside.
come?
Children can come. They're more
Can
than
have
welcome.
face painting
You
or
can
anything?
Face painting.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I just confirmed that I have some Girl Scout troop that is coming to help out. A lot of people who have donated their time and their talents for us to just come as a community and enjoy ourselves
Yeah.
and learn about other ways to detach.
Detached, but
Right.
mindful. That's all
And
mindfulness.
mindfulness, yes.
You know,
In the
taking care-
nature, it's
Yes.
a beautiful, beautiful area.
You know, some people love to walk. Some
Yeah.
people don't even know
That's
that they
me.
love to
Yeah.
draw.
Right. Yes.
They don't even know that
We had a couple come the first festival we had, and This couple came in and they saw the little art center, and I had birdhouses for people to paint, and rocks and coloring pages and all different kinds of things. And they were like, oh, we are bird lovers. We'd love to paint a birdhouse. Well, that was about 1 o'clock. By 7 o'clock, when it was over, they had done 15 birdhouses. They had spent the whole day there and put them out throughout the property. So it was a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You know, say a special prayer tonight for all the lives that have been lost. And truly, that is a number that is inconceivable. You know, it's a rough time of the year for me. 2 weeks from now will be my son's birthday too, so I just get kind of hammered this month. If I can stand up and step out and make a change, so can everybody else within their own community. So get involved, stay involved. It's our society, let's just remember that. Have a great week.